Welcome to Gaia's Call, where stories ignite your spirit and the earth whispers her secrets. I'm Brad Swift, a writer on purpose author of eco-fiction and non-fiction, inviting you to become an eco-guardian. Together, let's explore the wonders of our world and take action to protect them. Listen closely. Gaia is calling. And today's call from Gaia is about raising our children as eco-guardians in a time of collapse. What about going beyond test scores, cultivating resilience, stewardship, and inner strength in a changing world? Let's dig in. A few weeks ago, Anne, my wife, and we opened a conversation that has been quietly circling, for a couple of years now. What if Amber, my daughter, and Justin, her husband, moved into the upstairs of the loving Homestead, and Anne and I moved downstairs to the mother-in-law apartment? 4 loving adults, 2 extraordinary children, my grandkids, 1 shared roof, and 1 shared experiment. It feels beautiful. It feels bold. It feels right. And then, as real life tends to do, a wrinkled surface. The local school where Logan and Piper, the grandkids, would attend, it kind of has a poor rating. That word landed kind of heavily. Of course it did. Parents and grandparents want the best for their children. We all do. And I found myself sitting with a deeper, slightly uncomfortable realization. Even if the school had a 5-star rating, would it actually be preparing them for the world they are growing into? And that question has not left me. The world our children are inheriting. We are living in what many are calling a polycrisis or metacrisis, overlapping ecological, political, economic, technological, and spiritual disruptions. Some call it the Great Collapse. Others call it the Great Turning. And others, including myself, see it as something a bit more messy and more mysterious, like what happens inside a chrysalis as a caterpillar transforms into a butterfly. Inside that chrysalis, everything dissolves. Structures break down. It looks like chaos. And yet, imaginal cells begin to organize around a new pattern of being. Perhaps we are living inside such a chrysalis moment. Perhaps our children are not merely inheriting a mess. Perhaps we and they are the imaginal cells of what comes next. Whatever language we use, one thing is clear. The world Logan and Piper will inhabit as adults will not look like the world that I grew up in, and probably not even like the world their parents grew up in. So the real question isn't, is this school highly rated? The real question is, what prepares children to steward a changing world? Stewardship is not the same as success. Most school ratings measure standardized test scores, reading and math proficiency, graduation rates, and college admissions. Important? Yes. Sufficient? Not even close. Not for these times that are before us and that our children are inheriting. Because stewardship requires something deeper. Stewardship is about how we show up in relationship to the earth, to community, to uncertainty, and to ourselves. It asks not only can you compete, but can you care? Not only can you achieve, but can you regenerate? In many ways, our dominant educational model is based on a reflection of the great untruths. That we are separate from nature, that more is always better, that earth resources are unlimited, or that technology will save us. And again, that's the great untruth, if I misspoke that, just in case. But the world our children are stepping into demand a different set of capabilities altogether. One based in and that are a reflection of the four great truths. What might actually prepare our children? As I've reflected on this, both as a grandfather and as someone deeply living true to the four great truths, certainly endeavoring to do so, a few qualities rise to the top. Like emotional resilience. Not that stiff upper lip of suppression, but the ability to feel deeply without being overwhelmed. To face unsettling realities without collapsing into despair. To experience disappointment without losing direction. In a time of disruption, emotional regulation may be more important than algebra, for example. And then there's collaborative skills. The future will not be navigated alone. Climate events, economic shifts, technological upheaval, these are collective challenges. Children who can listen, negotiate, co-create, and repair relationships will be far better equipped than lone high achievers. Stewardship is relational. And how about comfort with uncertainty? My generation was largely raised with the promise of predictability. Study hard, work hard, retire comfortably. Well, that storyline is fraying. Our children need to become fluent in ambiguity, not paralyzed by not knowing, but energized by the exploration. This may be one of the most countercultural capacities of all. And then there's ecological intimacy. To steward something, you must feel connected to it. If nature is merely scenery or resource, stewardship feels optional. But if children grow up planting, composting, repairing, noticing birds, and understanding soil, something shifts. They no longer see themselves as separate from nature. They experience interconnection. And that changes everything. Entrepreneurial adaptability. Not hustle culture, but creative agency. The ability to see problems as invitations, to start small initiatives, to experiment and pivot. In a rapidly shifting world, adaptability may matter more than institutional credentials. And last of all, we got inner steadiness. Perhaps the quiet foundation beneath all the others, an anchored sense of self, a moral compass not easily swayed by noise, a capacity to act from values rather than panic. Inner steadiness is cultivated slowly through modeling, conversation, presence, not through rankings. So the deeper realization, as I've wrestled with the school rating question, I've had to confront something in myself. Part of me still wants reassurance. A 5-star rating, a clear path, a sense that everything will continue more or less as it has. But another part of me knows that no school, highly rated or not, can single-handedly prepare children for this moment in history. Education is ecological. It happens in families, in communities, in gardens, at dinner tables, in moments of failure, in how adults handle disagreement, and in whether we model fear or steadiness. Recently, I created a miniature hydroponic system out of a plastic take-home container so that Logan and Piper could watch seeds sprout in real time. Nothing fancy, just water, light, and yes, some patience. But when those first tiny green shoots emerged, their eyes widened. The miracle of growth became immediate, tangible, intimate. That too is education. That too is stewardship training. And if Ann and I move downstairs while Amber and Justin move upstairs, something extraordinary becomes possible. 4 adults consciously shaping a microculture, one in which the capacities of stewardship are lived daily, not merely discussed. A shift in the question then. Instead of asking, is this school good enough? Perhaps the better question is, how do we, as parents and grandparents, cultivate the qualities that will allow our children to steward whatever world unfolds? Yes, school matters, but it is not destiny. Atmosphere may matter more. Alignment among adults may matter more. Modeling resilience may matter more. Each morning, I renew a vow to live as if the 4 great truths are real and trustworthy, to embody interconnectedness, sufficiency, reciprocity, and stewardship. Not perfectly, but sincerely. That vow subtly shapes my decisions, my conversations, and the kind of world I'm trying to create within my own home. Because ultimately, our children are watching far more than they are listening. So, the invitation. Now, I don't pretend to have the final answers. Not at all. In fact, one of the most important things our children may learn from us is how to navigate not knowing. But I am increasingly convinced of this. If we raise children who are emotionally resilient, collaborative, comfortable with uncertainty, ecologically intimate, adaptable, and inwardly steady, they will be capable of stewarding a world in transition. Whether the school rating is high or low, whether the times are calm or turbulent, whether the future is predictable or entirely new. And perhaps that is the deeper work before us. Not simply protecting our children from a changing world, but preparing them to participate in its regeneration. And that's the end of the article, but if you happen to be on Substack or the Substack app, you can take a look at a few pictures of what has taken up much of my time here recently and actually had me miss a publishing on, I think it was February the 20th here on Substack. Several pictures of the emerging new phase of the Loving Homestead garden and food forest area. Take care.